All right, well, let's get going, shall we? So, welcome everyone. Welcome to this special episode of the Conservation Careers podcast. We've not done this format for, I don't know, ages, it seems. Yeah, it's been quite interview based, but this is a format we've had quite a few times over the last 5-6 years in the podcast where the three of us get together, myself, Nando, and Kristi, who you'll hear from in a second. And we have a bit of a catch up, and then we also kind of discuss a topic or a theme that's particularly important to us. Yeah, that we thought you might enjoy listening to as well. So, yeah, we'll talk about the theme in a little bit. I'll introduce that in a second. But before we do, let's just do a quick round robin of hellos. I'm going to chuck the ball to Kristi over there in Vancouver, Canada. Yeah. Hey, Kristi. Oh, and happy Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving for yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
true.
Yeah. Actually, it was very appropriate for this podcast topic because yesterday I hosted like a Thanksgiving dinner, but completely non-traditional. So had a whole bunch of people over and we ate a lot of, in this case, Ethiopian food, which
Oh,
is not traditional for Canadians at all. But it was really lovely. Yeah. So hi
Nice, the
everyone.
big plate in the middle, and then you use your
Yeah, like
hands.
finger food. Yeah, it was
Nice.
highly messy and very good. Lots of,
Very good
yeah,
for community.
good. Yes, very good for communal eating and community building.
which is the
Yeah,
topic of the
or
day.
just force people to share their food and eat it with their hands.
Nice. What would you traditionally eat? Would it be like a turkey or something, or?
Turkey, stuffing, potatoes, cranberry sauce, gravy, vegetables, super roast, not like cooked as much as in the UK, Nick,
Yeah.
where you guys like cook your Brussels sprouts, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. It's not quite that intense.
Yeah, really boil them to bits. Yeah.
But yeah, it's very much like your traditional turkey dinner. So I like to bring
Everything
that
in
up
huge quantities.
in huge quantities, and then we like sort of go lie down in a coma for a while, or we sort of walk around outdoors, and then we come back and we keep eating, and then we kind of repeat that cycle a few times until we just can't anymore.
Sounds just like Christmas for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Exactly.
Well,
Early
good to have you back on the
Christmas.
podcast, Kristi. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be back in the three-way podcast. This is long overdue.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm going to chuck the ball over to Nando as well. Hey, Nando.
Hello, how is everyone? I'm so happy to be back after so long.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But the last time we talked, was it last year on the podcast? We talked about well-being and looking after ourselves, didn't we? I think that was the last time we had a chat like
Yeah,
this.
we took a long break.
Yeah.
Well-being. Now we are full of energy again.
Yeah, we did the burnout podcast, which was fun too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, welcome back. It's great to see you, Nando. Because you've not been on for a little while, and we might even have some new listeners, who knows? Do you want to just say a few words of introduction? Is that all right? Like, remind us who you are. We know who you are, but
Sure.
others, yeah.
So my name is Nando. I'm from Spain, but I live in the Czech Republic, where I usually work as a field biologist with an NGO here. And we work in conservation of endangered species, tracking animals in the snow and doing all kinds of adventurous stuff. But I also, well, now I'm a freelance, and I'm more on mission driven. So I do data analysis too, or some mentoring. I do consulting for companies. So it's, yes, also different kinds of adventures, diversifying for when there are pandemics and things of the sort. And yeah, I've been, I don't know, we have been friends for many years here in conservation careers. I haven't been online for a few months, but yeah, now we are back. Let's try again and get the rhythm again of this podcast. And I miss our conversations.
Yeah, it always feels like group therapy, doesn't it, when we talk about stuff? So the three of us are quite sort of like-minded, which is quite good.
Yeah,
We're on a sort of similar level. Yeah, yeah. Um,
totally.
Two things jump to mind. One is the reason we know each other, Nando, is because you and Kristi met in the middle of the jungle in Peru, didn't you? So there's kind of like the seed has kind of grown from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just mentioned before, like the last time we were talking about burnout and well-being, and you've consciously taken a bit of a break, haven't you? And you sort of re-engaging a little bit. How can I ask, like, how are you approaching work differently, if at all, now from how you were previously? Like, what's changed in terms of your mindset and approach?
Well, at the beginning, there was a lot of thinking on how should I do this, reading a lot about the strategies. And in the end, what I realized that I needed to do is to remove everything and then start putting things back in only when making sure that it was exactly what I wanted at the time, what I needed, or what I enjoyed the most. So this is what I have been trying to do. At some point, it spread a bit again into too many activities. As you know, we all enjoy different things. So it's been a bit like that, and I'm trying again to rein in and to focus on the things I enjoy the most, and this is one of them. So that's why I'm reincorporating it. But yeah, it's putting things one by one and then pushing things forward when I need more time. Like, yeah, I need more time to enjoy and focus and get a very high quality in the results. I want to enjoy that again, to have very good quality in the results, and that you only get when you get to focus and not disperse over too many projects.
That's really interesting.
What's the thing, Nando? Oh, I was just curious, like, what's the thing, Nando, that allows you to consciously, intentionally decide what you're going to take on? Is that like giving yourself more space? Is it that you know, what is it?
I think, well, this you do very well, Kristi. This having, for example, a word for the year, a topic, or something you focus on. So I think it works in a similar way. And for me, this word now, or this aim, is freedom. I want to be able to choose when and what to do, but particularly when. Before, I was doing many things I chose to do, but it was too much and too many things at the same time, and I couldn't enjoy all of the things. So now I'm consciously reducing. I mean, I'm making a huge effort reducing the number of things, and I don't know how I choose. I mean, it's not always working, as I mentioned. Like, very soon I get many again, and then I have to reduce back to be able to enjoy them. But I focus on that, on the flow, on things I really enjoy. I notice that I'm enjoying, then I double down on those. For example, I saw a fantastic job offer that I thought I would be very good at, but I checked the conditions and I saw that it will require at least 4 days a week, and that will prevent me from fulfilling my other project. And then I say, okay, for this time, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna focus on this, and this offer will be there in the future. I made the connection, I made the contact, and I know it will be there in the future. But for now, I will focus on what I have in hand. Hopefully, we will have enough life to do everything we want to do.
Hope so too. Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, I feel like I've gone through a similar process myself, actually, the last maybe 6 months or so, something like that, about just trying to sort of take a bit more time to pause, reflect, and consciously engage in what are the priorities of what I really want to do. Kristi, you've been involved in that process too, alongside. And yeah, for me, I think my key word has been like intuition. I think that's about, yeah, like just sort of following my feelings a bit more. I think that's, rather than overanalyzing, I can get stuck in analysis paralysis. And yeah, and I think where I feel like maybe I've made decisions that haven't been the best decisions, if I'd really listened to my intuition at the time, I probably would have known it. And so I'm trying to be a bit more plugged into that, I think, really, which is, yeah. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's better than previously, yeah. But I like the fact you kind of like wipe the hard disk and now you're reinstalling the programs.
Yeah.
A defrag, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I like the mix of analytical sort of like, yeah, sometimes you'll and will look at stats and stuff to make decisions at CC. Like, it's almost, okay, where's the evidence that this thing worked or didn't work? And other times it's actually just, what do we intuitively think we should do here? It's a real mix, which is I think it works quite well.
I don't know the research well, but I read that we are wired, or at least evolution has provided us with tools to detect the bad things better than the good things. We need the data and the analytics to choose what's going well, but the bad, because before and 1,000 years ago it was a decision of life and death. We were selected by evolution to be quick at detecting dangers. So then our gut feeling is so much better at detecting this. Oh, this is not going so well. I don't know why, but I'm not feeling it. So these ones we should trust according to research. So maybe this is the thing, the combination you mentioned, Kristi.
Maybe I hadn't thought about it that way, but maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that too. That's really true. Yeah. The other thing, actually, before we get into our topic, that I found quite useful as well, and something we ask ourselves, and others might benefit from it too, is asking the very simple question, like, if this were easy, what would it look like? I asked all the time with Kristi that when we're trying to wrestle with something that feels really complicated, it's like, if this were easy, what would it look like? Well, we just do that. Well, let's just do that.
Yeah, and often there's like a quick answer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like we're overcomplicating this. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, well, it's good to have you back on. Good to reconnect with both of you as well. Topic. So we've already kind of touched on it a little bit already in our introductions there, particularly around kind of Thanksgiving. Is the topic we wanted to talk about on this podcast is one of around community. I guess the three of us are a community, and how communities have kind of helped us in our careers, and how community can therefore help others in their careers. It's something we hear a lot about. We talk about here at Conservation Careers. We've got a community ourselves that we manage and interact with and really enjoy. But we want to kind of take a bit of time just to reflect on, well, how can communities benefit us? What are the different types of communities that have benefited us, and how can people learn from that and use that in their own career paths, whether you're a student or a career switcher, or whether you are a job seeker or even a professional conservationist. We've all got communities we can be engaged in, and that can benefit us in different ways. Yeah, so that's the kind of topic for today, focusing on communities. Who wants to kind of kick us off with some thoughts around that?
I was just while you were doing the introduction, I was thinking about evolution again, and how community is important from the very beginning. We have been evolving for ages, needing communities, right? And it's still the same. We live in the future now with Elon Musk throwing rockets in the sky, and we were chatting before the call, and this nowadays is the same. If you don't have your community, you don't get, for example, access to jobs or to opportunities. You need your community to rely, like before, when there were hunters, or I don't know, people were gathering fruits in the forest or defending from other enemy communities. So this hasn't changed, and it's still good to thinking about our evolution and give it the value it has.
Totally. Yeah. How has it helped you, Nando? Like, have there been moments where you've been sort of sent jobs or suggested things, or
I guess you must have had this too, but I think a lot when I got the first jobs, and I had to work with other people. Or for example, when I started my PhD in Barcelona, and I didn't have any idea what a PhD was or what you do. And then there were several now very good friends, but back then they were other PhD students that were finishing, and they embrace the new newbie. And they were my mentors there. They helped me get to know my advisor, for example, he was another piece of that community. So all of them were my new little family. And without PhD students and colleagues and my friends from the masters, it would have been impossible to survive that ordeal. So I remember a lot that new community I got to when I started my PhD.
Yeah.
How was your first job, Kristi? Do you remember getting into a community then?
Yeah, actually, I did. I guess my first job, so my first job was technically a paid internship in Africa, in Kenya, that turned into a job. And that was great, actually, because the organization I worked for was a big one, but not too big. And there were a lot of international people. So there were, I was working obviously amidst Kenyans, but also people from all over the world, Europe, North America, South America, Asia, etc. And like at the time I was, in my like mid 20s or young 20s. So there were a lot of other young people. And so there was like a support network built into that organization of other people who were just starting their careers, and obviously more experienced and more senior people. And I had support at both of those levels. And that was really, really nice, to feel like you kind of belonged in that place, because it's daunting when you're just starting out and it's your first sort of like formal job in conservation and you have no idea what you're doing. And there's other people there to kind of buffer that. But yeah, I remember at least two friends in particular. One, his name was Takeo, and he gave me like such support with job applications. He was one of many people who helped me like learn to write them. And another friend, Olivia, and she was great. And like, well, Kristi, have you seen this opportunity? Have you seen this thing? She was really great at finding like job opportunities out there in the world, and kind of pinging them over to me, which actually I ended up doing one of them, that I would have never heard of otherwise if not for her just casually mentioning it. So yeah,
is your extended phenotype, your extended superpowers working for you?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's a community, right? An extended superpower network.
Yeah.
When you started your job, Kristi, in Kenya, your paid internship, like, did you like consciously make an effort to connect and meet people within the organization, or did people do the same in return? How was that sort of the network?
I think it was both. Like both of you know that I'm an introverted person, but I've learned through life to like just sort of put myself out there when I'm in an uncomfortable position. So I will go like talk to people and meet people. So I did do that at that organization. Like I made an effort. My job was kind of set up in a way that I had to, because I was doing science communications. So I had to go talk to the scientists in a research group, and figure out what was going on with them.
For an introvert, yes.
Yeah, well, no, but introverts on both sides, right? Like introvert talking to likely another introvert. Not everyone, but many. So no, they were fantastic. But so yeah, and I wasn't given a job description. I wasn't given anything. It was just like, okay, you're here. Welcome. Go. So I literally just had to go around speaking to people to get a sense of what was happening and what the heck to do. I was terrified.
Imagine the growth. You must have been.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot fast. I was uncomfortable for a short period of time. But also that organization was set up in a way where it was easy to meet people. Like they sort of had group like team meetings. They had larger meetings for the organization. They had sort of communal lunches, that kind of stuff. I was living in a shared complex with other people. So it was really easy to make friends in that setup. Yeah. So it was both.
That to me is like a key. Well, it's two keywords that have come out from what I've heard from both of you, like friends and family. Like they're just other names for community. Like we talk about like networking, and we've talked about it before. It always feels like such a dirty word, doesn't it? Like manipulative, like
friends,
promote to network, for me. But actually, It is just about
Yeah.
making friends, isn't it? It's connecting with like-minded people and learning how to help and work together.
Yeah. I love you always say it that way, Nick, like making friends rather than networking. I don't know, like when you made that shift for you though, like if at some point in your early career, did you think about it differently?
I think probably yes. Like you, I'm an introvert. I don't like going to big groups and talking to strangers. And I find it daunting to talk to new people, even on the podcast, or whatever. And um, yeah, I think the switch flicked early in conservation careers for me when I had to start like interviewing people, just writing blogs, like talking on Skype to whoever and talking to them
Mm,
about their story and then trying to write their story up and reaching out to new people I didn't really know very well and that sort of stuff. And I quickly learned to enjoy it and to feel the nerves as excitement and kind of see it as a different type of energy. And in doing that, I've always kind of thrived through that process really, and always felt it's worked well as a result. Yeah, that people are. I can't even think of an instance where it's not worked well. Yeah, where it's jumped on, had a conversation with someone I've never met before, and we've had a nice chat and learned through that. And I think that works well for me in this sort of environment. Yeah, yeah, particularly like in a Zoom environment. Yeah. So it's like a mindset shift, I think, really that's kind
yeah,
of come with time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How can you accelerate that mind shift? Or
Ooh.
in another way, do you remember having any strategy, especially as introverts? Do you guys remember, for example, meeting a new group of people? How would you approach that, or even now online, how would you or your young self will approach that, and what would you do differently now to make it faster and less painful? Would you identify the weakest member of the herd and attack, like someone that has a nice smile
Oh, it
and
just
is
got
clear,
dark.
open?
Go and
I,
take out
I,
the little one at the back. No.
no, maybe it was the wrong metaphor, but I was imagining a big group of people and everybody talking to each other, and then one person looks at you and smiles, and then you say, "Oh, finally, it's an
Mm,
entry point."
mm.
Question.
Yeah.
Mm,
I don't know how I'd approach things differently nowadays. Yeah, I find remote like this quite different to in person. I think that's something
absolutely.
I've
Mm.
recognized in myself. Yeah. I find this way less daunting to talk remotely because I can just turn you off at the end and go home,
Nick
How
with
easy is that?
with yours halfway through the podcast. That's enough,
Yeah.
guys.
No offense. No, but there is still that disconnect, I think, that feels very secure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'd approach things differently
Mm.
now. Yeah.
No, but that's a
Well,
good one.
It's a good one.
And
Yeah.
when entering groups of people, a lot of people in one of these calls, and then
Mm.
you are there and you have to network or make friends. I think what I have done at least twice, and it worked very well, is to send a private message to one of the persons and comment on something,
Mm.
and maybe you make this link already during the whole call, and then you keep on making jokes during the, for example, the talk or the webinar that it is, then you have already a connection. Or another good one that I remember is, if if a person was announced to give a webinar, I will, in advance, before of the webinar, write a short message, usually on LinkedIn, and I will say, I'm looking forward to listening to you tomorrow, to your talk.
Mm.
And then that person will find, it will be the equivalent of that smiling person in the serious group, that
Mm.
I will be there. This person will see me smiling, attentive there with my name there. This person will recognize my name, and then afterwards it happened, they say, "Oh, it was great to see you there." It's like having a friendly member of the ocean, of the audience there. So
Yeah.
that,
I like
You have
that.
a really good way of like finding the entry point or the
Yeah.
something in common
the
there,
herd.
or something just unusual that seems to work really well.
Well, it sounds to me like what you do nicely is you're sort of breaking the ice early. You know what I mean? Like by sending a message, you've already connected, and so when you actually do meet in person, that ice is, yeah, it's been sort of smashed already. And I think that is a useful strategy for other contexts too. Like you can send emails in advance outlining that you're going to call them at X time or whatever and talk about these things. And it just makes that whole transition into a conversation much more.
It's a
less
good one for
stressful.
the conferences. If you want to meet
Yeah.
someone, and I'm looking forward to your talk in this conference. I hope we can meet. If you do it beforehand, it doesn't get drowned in the message that come during the conference, for example. So you stand up and then you become the friendly face. So I think it could be applied to many ideas.
I think a word that kind of connects to this that we were talking just before about actually is like this imposter syndrome idea, which I think we all feel in different ways and contexts, like through our career. Yeah. And it's, Kristi, it's particularly like prevalent, I guess, with switchers, isn't it? We support and help a lot of switchers in career transitions, and people are exploring conservation as a potential area they'd like to work in. And we often feel and hear that it feels quite daunting to connect into a community of conservationists.
Super, very much so. Yeah, I think, well, easily for any group of people, but especially for career switchers, I think it's easy to feel like you're on the outside of what's already kind of a closed formed community that can feel quite closed off. But I find we talk to a lot of switchers, obviously, here at CC. And when I have like one-to-one conversations with career switchers, I always find it interesting because they know better than anyone that it's important to have community. It's important to have connections. Like they know how valuable that is already because they're partway into their careers. And yet it's often, for most people, the hardest thing to do is to sort of put themselves out there and make those connections, even though they know it's vital. But I think it's what I'm learning from talking to career switchers is that it's challenging because they're almost caught between worlds. Like here's someone who's wanting to leave their old work, job, career, which is a community associated with an identity, with other people, with certain values. They're wanting to leave that. So they're already sort of breaking ties with like an identity and a community there. Then some people are, I guess, also, not for everyone, but some people struggle with how to communicate their career switch to their friends, to their family, and even like judgment from other people about what they're doing. Like, oh, you're leaving behind your good, well-paying,
really hard,
whatever career to do what? You want to like travel somewhere and not get paid as much, or you want to go take a course? Like, what are you doing? So I think people also feel cut off from being able to talk to like their friends and their family and their colleagues and that community. And then like the other community in conservation, they don't know yet. Like it's an unknown that might be nice, might not, people might be welcoming, they might not be. So my sense is you have career switchers kind of in the middle of that, ending up having to do everything on their own, or it feeling like they have to do everything on their own because they're not fitting in any of those places. That's my sense. I don't know if either of you get that same sense or something similar.
I've never changing tribes.
Changing tribes.
Daunting.
I hadn't thought about it as clearly as you just articulated, actually, like sort of being caught in the middle of various things and transitioning, and that the uncertainty and the uncomfortableness that must come with that, actually.
Yeah. Because I think it's like for a lot of people almost an identity switch. Not just your career switch is arguably your identity, and so you're having to change that, and that's scary. Probably coming back to some kind of biology, scary.
No, it's curious because it feels like in the process you stop belonging to the first tribe for a little bit or partially, and then you start merging into the new tribe. Then afterwards, I feel that you can belong to both. You can have different hats and belong to both. But it's true that in the process, it can be scary because you feel that all of a sudden you lose your identity, you lose your connections. No one understands you, or
I think that's a good point too, because it's not that it's not that career switchers don't belong in any of these places, but it feels like they don't. And I think that's what's hard for people.
I think there's also there's this connection to like the word conservationist is like being a unique type of person as well, and like a unique identity that if you're not somehow working in the field, if you're not got a biology degree or whatever it might be, that people perceive you're not therefore a conservationist, you're somehow on the outside. And I view the identity as much broader than that. You know, if you kind of care about nature and the environment, if you do anything, whether it's I'm looking at a bird box in the garden right now, if you put that up, then I think you can hold the identity of a conservationist, you know. And I honestly truly believe we're a friendly bunch. You know, I've seen that 1,000 times, you know, in the last sort of decade or more, that people are very willing to help one another, to be friendly and open, supportive. Egos are a minimum. Yeah, we share the same mission. Yeah, we're all mission driven, really, and that's a leveler straight away. And also, we're really connected. Like I've said it 1,000 times already. Like conservation is a small community, I think, really, ultimately, and it's finite. And whenever you meet another person within the kind of conservation sector, very quickly I find you've got someone in common, often more than one. But there are, you know, and that's not just I'm particularly well connected. It's because I think that's for most people actually. You'll have someone. And that sort of makes you feel like we are this family, you know, we are doing this thing, which is a huge challenge, and we're facing, you know, all sorts of issues around that. But we're pretty welcoming too, you know, we're a good family. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that there is such a connection makes the culture very important, and this culture is an incentive for everyone to enter to behave their best. So everybody is keeping on this kind culture. So you can see, because there is total pressure to not do things, but I mean, you wouldn't belong then.
Yeah, I've not thought about culture before either. You're right though, it's cultural, isn't it? Like
it's a culture,
like bred into us, and it's
it happens in many communities that, as well, if the community already has developed a culture, it's very difficult for an outsider to change that culture.
Yeah.
So we gain more power, this network effect, and if we all add kindness to this, it will keep on getting more and more kind and resilient.
And I think probably the basis of that is the understanding that we need to work together to tackle what it is we're trying to do. Like people can't do any of this on our own. You know, I remember at BirdLife International where I worked for a while, and that was 120 partners, 120 countries. And when you think about just simple things like migratory birds, you know, a bird that flies from here in the UK, it crosses to France, down through Spain, and then into Portugal, across to Morocco, and so on. You know, to conserve that one species, we need to work with all these different partners up and down that flyway, you know, together. And it's the same with almost every issue we're facing. Climate change being the big obvious one. You know, you can't do anything on your own, so we have to work together, and therefore you have to act and work in a certain way, and that develops that culture that you're talking about.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah. It's just on the other side, no? Not only that you need it, but what it allows you to do, the kind of projects it allows us to tackle. When we are many, we can coordinate many and then get amazing things done.
I guess that's it's part of the power of now having so much work online and so many sort of online communities and opportunities. So maybe that enables it more than before, I hope. But I think we often hear from people, like, before they get into conservation, they're like, ooh, I don't know about this group of conservationists. I don't know if, you know, if they're going to accept my background and my education and my this and my that and the other thing. And then they get in there, like, they speak to someone and say, oh, that person was so nice. That person was so kind. And it's as if it were a surprise that inside conservation, they're a nice, kind people. But I think from the outside, it feels different.
And doing interesting work often too. It's like, ooh, I'm really excited by what they're doing. Yeah, some good stuff going on. Yeah, and I'm glad to connect. Yeah,
doing interesting stuff and being interested in the things you are doing make it very easy to have passion, and then to share the passion makes it more welcoming in the community.
Yeah,
you get infected by this passion.
Yeah. And I think that's something that I was thinking beforehand, like things that the benefits, how communities have helped me and helped others. Like, and we've mentioned a few of them quite clearly already. Like, one is like introductions, like, yeah, connecting to opportunities, hearing about a job, Kristi, with you. And for me, I got my PhD back in the day because I knew someone, because they knew someone. And I was part of a community back there. I was in the York University Conservation Volunteers, this small group of vols that went out at weekends and worked on local nature reserves, and that started, that small community of like a dozen of us that went out every Sunday started everything in my career from that, the people I met and so on. Yes, there's that kind of introductions, opportunities, sort of networking effect. But I think the one thing we're sort of touching on, but we've not named it yet, is like just the motivation, inspiration piece. Like, I think just seeing other people doing well, seeing other people also sharing their challenges and frustrations, and just being real is super. That's what we're doing here. That's super important, I think. Yeah, it can be really inspiring. To disconnect and feel lonely in a challenging sector like conservation can be really hard going. You need to be connected to other things, to impacts, to success, to other people who's going to help and motivate you. And I think that community piece for me, like we've got a community called CC Pro, where we have, nearly 2,000 people in there, and they're all doing all sorts of amazing stuff, doing courses and memberships and whatever it might be. And we've just started the last few weeks doing shout outs about people and what they're doing in that community and how they're progressing, and they share their achievements once a week. And it is a bit of a shameless plug, but it is my happy place to go and just sort of see. We're now summarizing once a month. We're sort of summarizing what's gone on and sending it out to our subscribers and people that are in there. And I feel really motivated by that, and that's come from the community for sure. Yeah. It's lovely to see. Yeah,
I agree. I think community goes a long way beyond, just having people point out opportunities and make recommendations, although all that stuff is a great benefit too. But yeah, there's a sense of identity, there's a sense of support, there's inspiration, the energy you get from other people. I think there's a sense of meaning too, like when it's not just what you're receiving from other people, but when you're in a community that you are able to contribute to and do something for other people, that feels pretty good.
Super powerful.
Yeah.
Gratifying.
Yeah. And the one thing all three of us are good at, so I'll cut you off, Kristi, but it's about connecting. I think it's really nice. I love seeing someone who's interested in something. There was someone the other day who's interested in human-wildlife conflict and wildlife conservation in human conflict zones. Yeah, so where there are wars and things going on. And there was already someone else in the community who's got a background in that, and just connecting them up and say, oh, you should speak to that person. Off you go. I love that. Yeah.
You create magic.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah.
That creates magic. Yeah, it's the moment it makes click, no? That you feel that something is missing. You feel that your peers or your current community doesn't understand you well. You need something else, and then all of a sudden you meet this new group of people that are exactly what you were feeling. They feel like you. They have the same interests, and then this special moment when I'm not alone. This was what I was looking for. This moment is also magic.
Yeah.
When you get it.
Yeah. The finding of the tribe.
The final. This is the correct tribe.
This is my tribe. I want this one. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know if this. Sorry,
I'm
cut you off.
I'm not going to cut you off again. Go on.
We do this to each other a lot. Okay, we'll go. I was just on the topic of benefits of community. I think I'm thinking about this because last night I hosted the Friendsgiving dinner, and
Friendsgiving.
Maybe this is unique to me. I'm curious if both of you experience this, but because I live alone, I travel alone, I work alone a lot of the time, I notice when I'm around people, like I can feel in my body that my nervous system goes like, And I'm curious if Nando, you found that because you kind of like measured these
Yeah, I have
things.
data. I have hard data on that. I totally agree
Yeah.
with you.
I have no hard data other than just the feeling in my body.
So you
The
feel
note.
more relaxed around other people, is that what you're saying?
No, like after spending good quality
Ah,
time with other people, I feel physically different. I feel, yeah, more sort of relaxed, at peace, more like less stressed and feeling like I'm running around,
Yeah,
rushed,
mm,
just more like
it's
centered,
definitely must
grounded.
be a physiological need. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
yeah.
it's again evolution. Like we needed someone to pay attention while we were sleeping, and someone had
Huh,
to be vigilant. We sleep better when there are more people around
huh.
in general because we feel safer because
Yeah.
the group is protected.
I
But
think
also,
also,
I
yeah.
mean, no, sorry.
Sorry,
I,
yeah, go on.
we call it here the friendship effect. This thing we have certainly measured, and is in when we visit friends in Prague and spend quality time, like you said, Kristi, and do, I don't know, escape room or go have dinner together, and then you can see that in all the markers or the biological markers at the heart rate and the REM sleep, all of that goes up or goes in higher quality. And it lasts for a few days, the effect, and it's magical. It's amazing that it works like that. It's certainly positive and necessary, and it was identified, I think, as one of the top factors in longevity in some other paper. Right?
Yeah,
Over stopping smoking, you needed to be with people. I mean, you could still
yeah,
smoke,
yeah,
but if you were with people,
yeah,
it
yeah.
was better for your
Wow.
lifespan. Sorry, what were you going to say, Nick?
Yeah, sorry, no, yeah, it got me thinking too. I think it's in part, and I might be wrong, in part due to the fact that you're externalizing your thoughts when you're with other people. I think when
Yeah.
you're on your own, and the more time you spend on your own, the more you get stuck in your own head and your own thought process, and that might be anxieties or lists or work or whatever it might be. It's just spinning around inside, and it's like when I try and do video editing, my computer starts going. Like it's really like the process is struggling, you know. Whereas when you with other people, it becomes much more external, your thought process, and you're sharing your thoughts, and everything just gets leveled and sorted a little bit more
Yeah.
out. And yeah, it's about sort
Totally.
of untangling the mess in your mind and yeah, and
Yeah.
letting it go a bit. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely.
And normalizing things as well, probably. Yeah. Like, oh, everyone else is like, it's not just
Yeah.
me. Yeah, okay, yeah.
I'm not alone there too.
Yeah, we spend, like days, months, years thinking, oh my gosh, this I can't do this thing. I've got this issue.
Everybody's better.
Realize
Everybody's
later that
doing
everyone
it.
else, playing piece of
Yeah.
themselves.
And then you remember that sentence, no? There are no adults. We are all making it up
Exactly. Yeah.
as we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have time for this, but I would be curious for both of you if you've had a moment where you didn't have community, like where you struggled.
One of those limbos, like in between communities,
Yeah.
or feeling.
There was so when I was leaving my last employment at BirdLife, and I was living in the Pacific and moved back to the UK, and then consciously making a decision, you know what, I want to do my own thing. And that became, conservation careers and what we're doing now. There was a moment where I really reflected on like who is my community or what is my community. And I used a tool, I used LinkedIn. It was really weird, but I don't know if they still have this tool, but it was a tool where you could actually visualize as a network all the people that you're connected to, all your
Ah,
contacts. And so it threw out like a 3D like spider diagram and clustered people together according to, I guess, their interests somehow. And so I did that. I was like really reflecting, like, who am I? What do I do? What do I know? What can I lean into that is my area of interest or expertise? And it was so clear. Like LinkedIn had three clusters. All the people, almost everyone clustered into one of these three. And it was like UK ecologists, which was kind of part of my background. It was friends and family, basically people that I just know that aren't necessarily through a work thing, but I know them and sort of following them and connected to them on LinkedIn. And it was international conservationists. It was people all around the world doing conservation work. And it's like I sort of looked at this cluster map of 3 things, like basically who I am. That's exactly bang on, yeah. And it was through that I thought, well, I should probably focus in on that as my area of interest and my area of my community. These are the communities, these are who I know, what I know. And that kind of helped to form that kind of new identity. I guess I was sort of between 2 things, but I was more like disconnecting to kind of reconnect in again to clarify, who the community was that I was most interested in and could therefore serve. Yeah.
It feels like a map of stars and galaxies, and
I'm
then
visualizing it.
It helps you discover a hidden galaxy that, I should go there and explore. It's close to my interest.
I think you could zoom in and zoom out as well a little bit too. It's super cool. This was
cool.
like 13, 14, 15 years ago. Yeah.
We're all going to go off this chat and go and see if LinkedIn still has cool, obviously.
So, where are we in the universe?
We're talking about Star Wars and Star Trek and Elon Musk before. We can't go back there.
It was bound to come into this chat somewhere.
It's connecting. It's connecting.
We are almost up on time, actually. So, have we got any more final thoughts, things you wanted to share that perhaps you haven't shared, or other ideas that have been sparked you want to share?
I was just thinking, like, if we look at conservation as a sector, like, what is it about conservation specifically that makes community important? Is there anything that happens for conservationists to conservationists? And I'm thinking right now of mostly of experiences I've had, but like if you're working quite remotely, Nando, maybe, well, both of you have traveled and worked abroad and been in different contexts. I think that can be hard because you're isolated, like physically, and in many ways you're isolated. So I'm just thinking of, what happens in conservation that makes it so important for people to have community?
I think a very big one in conservation is that there are no clear career paths. And then it's very difficult to plan or even to know what's out there and what your possibilities are if you don't have other examples of people that have trotted the same path and discovered this path already for you. So I think it's a very, very good benefit of communities in conservation, because it's almost unexplored territory. You can arrive to places in many different ways.
Yeah, it's like there's no roadmap, but you other than what we're trying to build. But there's other people who can provide a reference and a support for that journey.
And the other one Nick mentioned before, like the possibility of doing great things. Like we need the community to do more things, but also we have the ability. If we connect, we can follow that migrating bird all the way to Africa. And work in all the steps.
And that collaboration, I think, is absolutely the core of almost every project and everything that conservationists do. There's very few projects that aren't working with other people in some way, and so it's hard coded into our DNA. I'm wondering also if there's something unique about the sector it's quite sort of charity driven. It's, in terms of mission driven. If it was a load of different companies, they might be much more territorial and closed. Whereas I feel like charities are very open and collaborative in their nature. They tend to be, and that can be quite donor driven too. Like donors want to see projects with 5, 6, 7 different charities on, because it's sort of like spreading the risk as well a bit. It's sort of built in at that level. So there's definitely something that feels not massively unique, but it's important to conservation. This idea of working together and helping one another and throwing the ladder back down because the career path's not quite there yet. Helping people up, that are behind you, and mentoring. We've not really talked about that, but like mentoring and supporting people further in their career, helping those earlier in their career. There's a lot of that goes on.
And definitely it's more fun together.
It's more fun. We haven't mentioned that.
Like we are proving.
Like we're proving.
Definitely more fun. Yeah. Oh, well, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Thank you, particularly Nando, as well, for kind of sharing an hour of your time with us. I feel privileged that you've decided to reinstall our
Chosen.
program. Yeah. You cleared the decks and thought it would be fun to come back on this. I really appreciate that. That's lovely. Thank you.
Anytime.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you're listening and if you are interested in communities, it would be remiss of me not to mention that we have a community at Conservation Careers. So we have our membership scheme is called the Conservation Careers Academy, and a part of that gives you access to our community, a community that Nando used to previously manage and did an amazing job of, and Kristi and I are really actively involved in there. Well, day to day, I can literally say that. Yeah, we're sort of in there pretty much every day, helping, supporting people through that. In that community, there's 2,000-ish people. I think it's 1,920 something when I last looked, so nearly 2,000. All across the world, different levels, switchers, students, professional conservationists doing courses. We've just launched actually 10 mini courses, we're calling them, whereby we've collated together all of our trainings from the last 6+ years into playlists. So we have several trainings just for career switchers in a mini career training series for switchers. We've got one all around how you do applications. We've delivered really several around that. We've done one around LinkedIn, which Nando, you were involved with. So, people can just dive in as a member and just access specific trainings on specific challenges and needs. We run quite regular events in there, catch-ups. I'm jumping on a Q&A in just under an hour myself, where I'm there for an hour answering questions from anyone who wants to ask a question of me. And I share sort of video answers to them and a whole lot more. I mean, I'm just touching the surface on what's going on in there. So if that sounds interesting, we'd love to kind of welcome you into the community. It is right now, I think it's October the 15th, 2024. We are running a promotion till the very end of October where you can join and get a whole month for free. So you can jump in, get a whole month. If you want to cancel just before the end of the month, you can do that. You won't be charged a single penny. You can give it a go. Alongside the community, you also gain access to all our jobs and listings on the main website as well, plus a whole bunch of other stuff, resources that we share with you. Yeah. Have I missed anything, Kristi? I feel like I chucked everything in there, including the kitchen sink.
Just that I think the community is a space to engage in whatever, it's flexible, depending what you need and what kind of support you'd benefit from. If you're looking for jobs or networking, there's that. If you're looking for, like you said, the training aspect, like what are some of the top sort of tools for conservationists? And there's just a lot of like inspiration and support and ways to engage and not be alone in the journey, wherever you are, whether you're career switching, whether you're just starting, whether you're kind of like wondering what the next move is in your career. So I think it's there for people to use in the way that best benefits them. As a total introvert who's like not the kind of person that gravitates to communities, I can say it's an awesome space. Like it's just such a fun, welcoming, non-judgmental, inspiring space to be in. And I think that's what makes it work.
Yeah.
A nice tribe.
Yeah. A friendly bunch.
A nice tribe.
The final thing I'll also mention that we've not mentioned that I forgot also is, and the one thing I enjoy almost the most out of the community is, as a community member, you can jump in and be part of the podcast. So we do these things called Pro Chat. So if you're listening to the podcast now and you've heard me interview people on the podcast recently, as a community member, you're welcome to join those recordings. What you do is you come in, you sit on mute, microphone off and video off, and you just watch and listen to me interview whoever it is on the podcast. We've got some amazing names coming up, CEOs of some of the biggest organizations on the planet lined up over the next 2 or 3 months. And then at the end, once we finish our recording, I always leave 10-15 minutes after the recording for you to ask questions, for you to share your reflections, and for you to network with these really quite influential and friendly conservationists. And if you don't want to ask a question, that's absolutely fine, but there's an opportunity there. We try and, this is your words, Kristi, not mine, take the work out of networking. I really like that.
I say that?
That's a title you've written for an email. And it works really. We used to do them separate. I'd do a podcast recording, and also I'd invite people to be open to answer questions from the audience. We combine those two things, and it works so well. Yeah, because it
So
breaks the
nice.
ice. Just let me ask all the questions. I can break all the ice for everyone else, and then you can pile in at the end and ask your own questions. It's a great networking opportunity, and it's all included. Yeah.
And you're interviewing a bunch of like CEOs and top directors coming up. Like the
It's
lineup
a huge
people
opportunity.
on fire right now.
Yeah. I've proactively gone out and asked a load of people, would you come on the podcast? And so many have said yes. So if you jumped in, you'll see the event calendar is quite busy now for the next 2 or 3 months. We've got the CEO of RSPB in a few weeks' time, who's leading an organization with over 1 million members. You know, and the chairman of Natural England, Tony Juniper's coming on, quite a well-known guy here in the UK. We've got the chair of the Forestry Commission. I'm talking to the chair of Rewilding Europe as well, the CEO, and so forth. So really, and again, friendly bunch. They've all said yes, you know, and I'm sure they'll be great in the podcast, and we'll be happy to answer people's questions too. So yeah, I'm nervous and excited at the same time about all aspects. Yeah, trying to lean towards excitement more. Okay, once again, thank you, Nando. Huge thanks, Kristi, also. Yeah, and thank you all for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, everyone. It was beautiful to be back.
Yeah, this was long overdue and very fun.